For the historical fiction book share, I chose to read Coming Home, a story of Josh Gibson, baseball's greatest home run hitter. Oh, and it's by Nanette Milage. Okay. The best hitter I ever saw? Bet here's one you won't know. He played many years ago for the Homestead Grays, a Negro League in Homestead, Pennsylvania. Josh Gibson was his name. In those days, segregation was the law of the land. Blacks and whites lived in separate neighborhoods, went to separate schools, even rode in separate sections of the same bus. It was no different with baseball, so white players had the major leagues and black players had the Negro Leagues. The Negro Leagues had a lot of great players. Josh Gibson, Buck Leonard, Satchel Paige, and Smokey Joe Williams were as well known to Negro League fans as Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, and Ty Cobb were to Major League fans. Pop took me to every home game the Grays played. I was 10 when Josh joined the team. He was just 18 years old, but to me he looked like a giant. And was that man fast. By the time the outfielders chased down what he'd hit, Josh would already be on third base. He was also powerful, so big and so strong that everyone took to calling him Thunder. Each time Josh was up to bat, we yelled, "Thunder's coming!" It didn't take the fielders long to figure out what that meant. Josh hit hard. The year they signed Josh was one of the best ever for the Grays. They whipped all corners and won 11 games out of 12 on a barnstorming tour against the Kansas City Monarchs. We called them the Kings of the East because it looked to us like there was no one left to beat. Then along came John Henry Lloyd. He was the shortstop and manager for the New York Lincoln Giants. The Giants had also completed a winning season, so Lloyd challenged the Grays to a 10-game series to see which team would be the Negro League champions. Nearly everybody in town turned out for the series opener. The Grays took the first game with a score of 9-1. In the second game, Josh did a spread with a home run over the center field fence. The next 4 games were played out of town, so Pop had to buy the Pittsburgh Courier and turn straight to the sports page to find out what we missed. The Grays were ahead of Lincoln 4-2. Game 7 was going to be played at the famous Yankee Stadium. Pop couldn't stand to miss out on that game. He decided it was a good time for us to pay a visit to my Uncle Ray in New York. We wanted to get a good look at the place that was home to the Yankee greats Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, so we got to the stadium early, staring up at the triple-tiered stands that stood as high as a 10-story building. I felt swallowed up by the size of it. In fact, it was the first ballpark ever built that was large enough to be called a stadium. To see the best of the Negro Leagues play in the most famous ballpark in the world was something I'll never forget. Some of the players were warming up on the field. I spotted Josh right away and called out, "Hey Josh, will you hit a home run for us today?" He came up to us and said, "I'm sure gonna try." He gave me his autograph and shook Pop's hand. The smile on Pop's face was just about the biggest anyone ever had, I reckon. We could have gone home then and there. A day just couldn't get better than that. But it sure could get worse. From the outset, the Lincoln team had the Grays on the run. Their starting pitcher was Luther Farrell. He was one of the finest pitchers in the league and was at the top of his game that day. Time and again, our Homestead boys struck out. We were all feeling a little down when Josh came to the plate for the 4th time. He hadn't gotten a single hit off Farrell the whole game. Farrell let go a third pitch, and Josh swung his mighty arms. Strike 3. When Josh went back to the dugout and laid his bat down, my heart sank right along with it. The Grays were trailing, and things didn't look to be getting any better. Pop was so nervous he took off his hat and nearly bent it in 2. At the top of the 9th, John Henry Lloyd sent Broadway Rector to the pitcher's mound. Broadway had a slow ball that could fake out some of the best sluggers in the league, so when he stepped up to the field, the Lincoln crowd went wild. Joel was up to bat again. As he walked to the batter's box, I could hear people saying, "That kid can't hit, and go ahead, Broadway, hand the boy back to his mama." Pop must have heard it too, because he got mad, real mad. He stood up right in the middle of everybody and yelled, "Look out now, Thunder's coming." Then I heard someone else shout, "Thunder's coming." I got up too, and soon all the Grays fans stood up shouting, "Thunder's coming." I don't know if Josh heard us, but down in the batter's box, he looked like he was standing even taller than usual. Broadway waited for what seemed to be the longest time. When he finally let go of the ball, it moved so slow a couple of folks looked at their watches, wondering if it could get past home plate before dark. Josh didn't budge. The ball kept crawling toward him, getting slower all the time. I was sure he faked out when, pow! The bat was just a blur. Everyone jumped in, trying to get a catch of the ball as it zoomed past left center field and kept on going. Up and up it went until it hit the back wall of the bullpen and disappeared right out of Yankee Stadium. Well, even Lincoln fans had to put their hands together for Josh. Everybody in the stands was clapping and cheering. Come on home, boy, come on home. Josh was a fast runner, but just this once he took his time, trotted to every base, and grasped every outstretched hand. Pop's hat was so twisted up he couldn't wear it anymore, so he just threw it in the air and shouted, "Come on home." No player in any league before or since has hit that ball so far as Josh did that day. As for me, I had yet to see a finer sight than that afternoon in September 1930 when Thunder came on home. I really like this book for historical fiction just because it kind of makes it lighthearted for the students, and it's not so kind of hard to talk about like segregation kind of can be. It does give some insight on segregation and prejudice, saying that the blacks and whites had to sit on different parts of the bus, and they had different schools and different sections where they had to be, especially the Negro League and the major leagues. So it just kind of gives them an insight on that and allows them to get a little taste of it. So I would probably use this as an anticipatory set for a lesson to lead into segregation, but it's just kind of a lighthearted way to start into that subject, and I think kids would really like it.